Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Borders. I'm Mike Ginn. That's Extremo Alex Soto. Of course, last week we caught Alex on the way to LUX 16 down in Mexico City. He's back now. He's going to share that story, share those adventures. We're going to talk about a few things, including get his thoughts on a couple of big fights involving some Mexican fighters, like Yair Rodriguez is challenging Max Holloway. We're going to finally get that fight in November after getting pushed back. They just announced Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo III, so we're going to get his thoughts on that trilogy. And then we'll get him to break down LUX 16 and talk about some stuff that happened behind the scenes. But, of course, this show is brought to you by Fighters First. I happen to be rocking the Chicago-made T-shirt, so make sure you check some of that out. We got a lot of cool graphic tees. If you look below, we also got the unfiltered stuff, the Crossing Borders, Art of MMA, all the different shows. So check all that out on fightersfirst.shop. We're going to have to get some Alex some of that fresh merch so he can start rocking it on the show as well. First off, though, Alex, how you doing, man? How was your trip?
It was great, man. It was a lot of fun going out to Mexico City after a long time, since February of 2019 or 2019. Man, it was a long time coming before, ever since that pandemic hit. We weren't
Any
able
cricket
to.
tacos this time?
I didn't order any, but they're delicious, man. Last time. But I totally recommend them, man. Get yourself some cricket tacos. They're delicious.
I think I'll still pass on that. I'll stick with my normal street tacos. I'm good with that. Maybe some street corn or something like that. Give me some elote, get it all like diced up and everything on top of it. I'll be good to go. Of course, I live in Tampa, so we got all those flavors every day here. So that's not something new for me. But let's go ahead and talk about some fights. Let's jump right into it. I just said in the beginning of the show, we finally got confirmation that Max Holloway and Yair Rodriguez was supposed to happen a few months ago. Got pushed forward. I'm not sure. They're not sure if it's going to be an ABC card or if it's going to be a traditional fight night card. But what are your thoughts? Yair Rodriguez has been kind of dormant for a while. He hasn't fought for a while. Do you think he could actually pose a risk to somebody like Max Holloway, who honestly at this point, Max is back to being red hot? Like, he took a little downturn, but he's back to being Max Holloway, in my opinion. What do you think about that fight?
No, you're not giving Max Holloway to it. He had a downturn. He just, he lost his title, I guess. But it was up.
He lost his title. He had the issues with, whether you want to say concussion or some of the other medical issues he was dealing with. But then he bounced back against Volkanovski the second time. A lot of people thought he won that fight and kind of got robbed by the judges. And then against Calvin Kattar, oh my God, he just destroyed him for 5 rounds. So I know this show is supposed to be promoting Mexican MMA. I don't give Yair Rodriguez a lot of hope in this one. What do you think?
I disagree with you, man. I think Yair Rodriguez is going to roll through him. I think stylistically speaking, it's a terrible matchup for Max Holloway, just because of how well he's able to. Yair is able to use his range and he's so creative with his striking. I think this is a real bad matchup for Max Holloway, man, because Max Holloway is very. It's a boxing Hawaiian, stand and bang kind of a guy, and Yair is more. He's very, for somebody who likes to stay the distance at range, and which is Max Holloway's kind of go to. He's always the taller guy going into these fights. He's really long. He's got a really long reach, which is gonna go really bad up against the arsenal that Yair Rodriguez has, man. And I think it's gonna be one-sided, man.
What do you think about the layoff? He hasn't been in the cage since October 2019.
Dude, that's something to take into consideration. I don't put a lot of weight into it because he's been competing his entire life in combat sports, and also the type of athlete that Yair is. I mean, he's a phenomenal athlete, man, and I think that has a lot to do with his mental game. And because of that, I'm gonna say I'm not gonna put a lot of weight on this for him. And he's also got everything to gain again. He's stepping up in competition here and taking Max Holloway. I mean, this is kind of a big opportunity for him. He really has nothing to lose into this fight. Max Holloway has way more pressure going into this.
Yeah, obviously, Max is waiting for the winner of the Ortega-Volkanovski fight this weekend. A lot of talk if Max gets past Rodriguez. He's got that trilogy with Volkanovski or the rematch with Ortega, who, depending who you say, it could be a lot of people know that Volkanovski won the first fight, but a lot of people think Max won the second. Of course, Max gave Ortega his only loss with the stoppage, bloodied him up, and the doctor eventually stepped in the fourth round. Yair is coming off kind of a weird series, right, with Jeremy Stephens. He had the weird eye poke situation in the first fight. They ran it back, and then he kind of beat up Jeremy Stephens the second time. Before that, of course, everybody remembers the last-second knockout against the Korean Zombie. But the one hiccup I think Yair's always had, and I know I just want to play devil's advocate, I really think it's going to be a very fun, entertaining matchup. But one hiccup he's always had is his chin. His 2 losses are both knockouts, one to Frankie Edgar, and then another one really early in his career. So I think that kind of plays into what Max does. But you're right, Max doesn't fight too many people that have the same length, right? The same height and length. A lot of times he is the bigger guy. So that's going to be it's going to be an interesting situation. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
The knockouts that he has on his record. I mean, that knockout wasn't with Frankie Edgar wasn't really a knockout. It was more of a busted up eyeball. He couldn't see off that right eye, and the referee really stopped that fight. So he wasn't out cold in that fight. And the other one was really early in his career. So yeah, man. I think
I told you I gotta play devil's advocate. I can't make it one-sided.
I'm not gonna let you run it like that, man. You know that.
That's fair.
I analyze the fights. I analyze the styles, and I think with Yair, man, he's gonna put a whooping on Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway's not even gonna know what hit him in this fight.
I kind of see it the opposite, but that's what we do this show for. That's why we have different opinions, right? I think it's going to be a fun matchup. Though. I do. I really think it's going to be an entertaining matchup.
Yeah, it'll be fun nonetheless. Agreed. Yeah. I think it's going to be a spectacular knockout win for Yair.
Just like you clickbaited me last week with the Julio Cesar Chavez, I might clickbait you this week with what's Alex got against Max. So that's happening November 13th. Right now it's planned for Las Vegas on a fight night, but they say they may move it to an ABC card. We'll see. Very rarely does Max not fight on pay-per-view or on the big card like ABC, like against Calvin Kattar. So I'd be surprised if they didn't, but it is also like the week after UFC in New York. So it's 268, which is like their big epic card. So we'll see what they do with that one. And of course, the other big news breaking last week, there was question whether Brandon Moreno would defend the trilogy against Deiveson Figueiredo. Would he fight again against Alex Pantoja? Looks like it's going to be Figueiredo on December 11th at UFC 269. My quick thoughts are the first fight, I arguably thought Figueiredo won, but he had the penalty with the point taken away, in which made it the draw. The second fight, Brandon Moreno ran right through him. And I have a hard time imagining that Figueiredo will figure out Brandon Moreno to make it this a competitive fight, because what I see is Figueiredo on this level and staying consistent, right? He's a very talented fighter. He's very strong, especially for that weight class. He probably will move up after this trilogy to the next weight class. Moreno has gone from come up to he just keeps elevating every time he fights. He's just a brand new fighter. Every time he fights, he learns a new trick. Oops, sorry about that. He learns a new trick. He learns a new technique. He's just getting better and better. I honestly, like what you thought about Yair Rodriguez and Max Holloway, I think this about Brandon Moreno. I think Brandon Moreno is going to absolutely run through Deiveson Figueiredo, and I don't think this one's going to be close. What do you think?
I disagree again on this one. I think Figueiredo thought he was going to run through Moreno and wasn't expecting the amount of pressure that Moreno was going to bring in. I think he was surprised. I think he was perhaps maybe a little overconfident going into that fight. I think this is going to be this next third edition is going to be probably more exciting than the first time they met. And I don't.
That's a high standard because that first one was a war.
It was a battle, man. It was all Figueiredo in the opening round, and then it became into a stand and brawl, and it started leaning a little bit towards Moreno. And you're right. I think in the judges' scorecards, I think Figueiredo won the first one. The second one, it was just Moreno's moment, man. He just had the energy. He had the positive attitude. He had that mentality set. He really believed in himself. And when a fighter has type of mentality, it's really, really hard to stop that, man, and to control somebody like that. But now they met. You ran right through him. Figueroa's probably going to come in more intelligent into this next fight. I think he's going to try to dig in deep and use a little bit more of his tools, and not just who knows. I just know he did not perform his best in that fight. I think Moreno's going to win this. I think Moreno's going to win the fight again. I just think there's just so much good positivity, good energy coming from that camp. That camp's going through so much like good vibes right now, and such good training partners have a right to Tijuana and training with Moreno. I mean, he really has like just amped the talent level in Tijuana, and now everybody's going out there traveling from all over parts of Latin America to come train in Anthem because they know that formula worked. And so there's some really, really high level talent there. So I think Moreno wins by unanimous decision, 5-round brawl.
I mean, I hope you're right. I have two concerns, right? One is always Figueiredo making weight. He's had trouble with this weight class. Obviously, the first time he fought Joseph Benavidez, he didn't make weight, so the title was only on the line for Benavidez, and he beat Benavidez, so the title stayed vacant. Second time, he barely made weight. I think he had like have an hour extra or something to cut the last 10th or 2/10 pounds. He's struggled in the past with making that weight, so that's always a concern. The first time they fought, both of them took the fight on short notice. I think it was like 3 weeks from their last fight. Both of them had to recut, which is always, as you know, as a fighter, not something very fun for a lot of these guys when they're cutting down weight like that. So they both had an even ground. The second time, they had no excuses, right? Second time, they had full camps. They had everything going. And Moreno ran right through him. I'm hoping for a war, but like I said, I think Moreno's just getting better. And Figueiredo, for as much as I love him, he's actually one of my favorite fighters to watch. I think he's just one of the most entertaining guys in that division. I think he'd be entertaining at the next weight up. He carries that power wherever he goes because he throws home run shots every time he throws a punch or a kick. He's going for everything. And but I do think it's going to be Brandon Moreno. I think Brandon Moreno, I agree. It may go to a decision, but I just feel like Moreno's built to last. And if Figueiredo doesn't get him out in the first couple rounds, which I thought the last time too, if you go back and listen to Art of MMA before the last fight, I was like, Figueiredo, but I'm picking Figueiredo because I think he's going to get him out in the first couple rounds. And what Moreno has shown is just his durability. Like he can take a punishment and keep going and keep going. So even if Figueiredo does come out starting hot like he has in the past, like you said, if it does go to decision, there's no doubt that Moreno's going to get the better of him later in that fight. And if Moreno starts off the way he did this fight, where he came out like red hot in the beginning, I just don't see Figueiredo having any kind of chance on that one. But if that happens December 11th, UFC 269. On that note, before we go over and switch over to Lux, I do want to get Alex's thoughts. I was reading, it kind of came out late in August. They've been working on the third International UFC Institute. This one's down in Mexico City. They had Brandon Moreno. They had Tony Ferguson, some other people out there promoting it down in Mexico City. Of course, Tony's of Mexican descent as well. What do you think that does for MMA in Mexico? Because we've talked about how it's just really evolving faster and faster. Of course, it has a long history, but over the last 10 years, we talked about this last week. It's going from little bit inch up, and then all of a sudden, shoom. And I know you made the argument last week that it's been around forever, but I do feel the last 10 years it's just really skyrocketed. And putting a performance institute's got to do wonders for it, right?
Yeah, I think when you guys think of back to why the UFC got into that, I mean, the reason they got into the Performance Institute is because the UFC was losing money. Their fighters kept injuring themselves. Their big pay-per-view fighters were getting injured 2 weeks before the fight and basically ruining the revenue stream of those pay-per-view events. You know,
weight cut issues too.
Weight cut, that's another one. And there's a lot. If you go anywhere around the world, you go to, for instance, Dagestan, for instance, one of my favorite examples. Those guys go hard. I mean, they fight every single night. They're always injured, man. Those guys are, they're notorious for pulling out of a fight. because of a gruesome injury that they've encountered in the camp. And you ask them what happened. I was like, well, 3 days before my fight, this guy pulls a flying knee to my face and smashes my nose. So there's a lot of culture involved in that. Yeah, they make they make amazing athletes, obviously, from all over the world. If you go to the Philippines as well, Bahrain, a lot of the athletes there train very similar like that, where it's just stand and bang type training sessions, right?
Yeah, you don't have to go. You don't have to go that far. You can look right up north in California, aka, Cormier and Velasquez. How many times did Velasquez have to change a date to a fight because they get injured in training? Luke Rockhold, all those guys, they go hard. Javier Mendez has them doing the same thing up in AKA, so it's the same.
When you're looking at the reasoning of the Performance Institute that the UFC started in Vegas, it really was to really save in those addressing that issue first and going, okay, guys, this is how we should do it, where we're maintaining a safe environment, we're still performing at top performance, but at the same time we're not breaking each other and we're not injuring ourselves right before the fight, leaving it all in the gym. That's something that we hear often. And when you're a fighter, like, don't leave it all in the gym. By the time you get to the ring, you're all burnt out from all those wars you had. So, so there's some truth to that, and the UFC has really honed in on this to try to help the industry, and in turn helping the UFC and helping the community of the mixed martial arts. So the fact that they're doing that in Mexico, that's fantastic. I think that's going to help in maybe educating the mixed martial arts community in Mexico about proper ways of training without really going into war in the gym all the time.
Do you think it will help convert some of the because obviously Mexico has a real deep history in boxing and other combat sports, and then obviously entertainment with the lucha and stuff like that. Do you think this will help convert some of those people that may go into like the entertainment side of things or to boxing, now maybe kind of focus more on MMA and get a little bit more of those athletes involved too?
I think so. I think already when we're looking at, you can see what your favorite athlete is doing online. You can see what he's doing every single day through their Instagram accounts or your social media, and you're seeing, wow, okay, this is what this guy is doing, and I'm going to do the same thing. So there's a lot of influence already kind of evolving in the community of boxing and mixed martial arts. So I think there's a big universal standard, if you will, of how to train and what's kind of like the proper way.
Yeah, and I think the best example is probably Renan Barão, right? Like, I remember when he was the bantamweight champ, he had the severe weight cut. He had to go to the hospital the night before a title defense. And it wasn't long after that Dana's like, I had enough, and he kind of launched the Performance Institute. Make sure their diet habits are right. Make sure they're training right. And I think putting that right downtown in Mexico City, I think, is just going to be another beacon of like, hey, UFC is focused on a new market. I believe the other one is in China, if I'm not mistaken. They're trying to focus on making athletes around the world. But also I think it's a great way to, like I said, bring in those athletes that were doing different things to say, hey, maybe I could do this instead. And then, like you said, have the right way to do it without going out there training the wrong way, getting hurt, not dieting the right way. And Alex will tell you himself, your diet is almost as important as your fighting skills. Because if you don't go in that cage at 100%, or you don't bounce back after your weight cut and properly rehydrate, how many times have we seen some of the best fighters in the world have a bad weight cut, and then all of a sudden fight night, they don't look like the best fighter in the world anymore?
Exactly.
So
yeah, I've had bad ones. I've had a really bad return from my diet. It was really strict. I think it was my second time making it 135 pounds, and I was like a sloth fighting in the cage, man, and I couldn't help it. And it's so that is a real thing. Dieting, nutrition, and all that. I mean, there's specific for fighting, specific for combat sports. I think it's really going to help the community in Mexico.
Real quick before we hop into LUX 16, what is that like? So when you're in the cage and like, here's the practice and the training version of me that does all these amazing things, and now I'm in the cage And just for the people at home, what's that like when you just like you're stuck in your mind because you know how you can perform, but you're just not performing like that? What's that experience like? How could you put that in words?
For the fight that I had where mine was like that, where I remember stepping into the cage going, man, I do not feel normal right now. And it's like,
Is it like
and
an out
in
of
the
body
fight,
experience a little bit?
it felt, yeah, it felt like a really bad dream, like a really bad. I mean, because your adrenaline's kicking in, so you're outside already. You're trying to move, but you can't move. You're super sluggish. And I remember the opening round, this guy put me up against the cage, and I'm resting like deep breaths. I'm going, oh my gosh, how do I? Like I was just taking these deep breaths as I'm being held up against the cage, and I could tell that his strength wasn't. It wasn't like he was really strong. It just felt so heavy on me. Then you got on top of that, you got the pressure of the fight on top of all that, and so it's all it's also the mental aspect on it. So that was a big fuck up on my part with my dieting afterwards.
What
So
opponent was that?
That
What opponent was that?
that was when I fought against a really tall opponent, Brady Harrison. So that was this really 6 foot tall, 135-pound guy. But that's that's how it feels. It's just like this terrible weight return when you're coming back. But those how that type of learning stuff that's out there with the Performance Institute, I think is really going to help out, man.
Definitely. Now, last week was not all pleasure. Of course, you were working. You were going down to Mexico City covering Lux Fight League 16. Of course, Sergio Cossio versus Alan Dominguez in the main event. We're going to go ahead and jump right into that. We'll talk about the main. We'll talk about the co-main and some other highlights on the card for Alex. And then we'll get maybe a little bit behind-the-scenes story time with Alex as well. But let's jump right into that fight card. Obviously, Sergio Cossio, one of the big names in all of Mexican MMA. He's been kind of dominant lately. What did you make of that fight? Of course, he got the submission in the first round, kind of like you thought might actually happen. So break that fight down for me.
Well, breaking it down, Alan Dominguez was showing up for this fight. Kind of got a call. He was surprised to get the call, actually. He was like, wow, man, because he's been asking for the fight, actually, I should say. But he didn't think he was actually going to get it. I think everybody's honestly, I think I'm not the matchmaker or really close involved with the matchmaking of this promotion. But I think just nobody wants to fight Draco Cossio right now, man. He's just a beast. And it showed. So Alan Dominguez took up the fight. He came out strong in the opening rounds. I thought, okay, it was going to be a little bit more competitive, but I think a little bit of inexperience there on Alan Dominguez on shooting for that lazy double exposed his head, and then just gave up. And actually, I think he switched to a single leg, which then Sergio Cossio was able to submit a guillotine, a nasty one too. It was so tight, so tight. I knew as soon as it hit the floor, I knew that was going to end it right there, because Alan Dominguez was not moving very much after that, and it was so tight. It's so hard to escape from that Marcelo guillotine style that it was just pressing on that and put him out to sleep, man. Put him out really fast.
Yeah, once you get him high, you can't really turn into the body. You're kind of like stuck in like no man's land. So,
yeah, I mean, the only thing you can do is flip really quick. I mean, you got an alligator and get your chin facing up to the sky to escape from that. But even then, man, it was so done.
Or do a Dustin Poirier and walk up the cage.
Yeah,
like when Connor had him in the guillotine. Yeah. But you said in the beginning, you said it was kind of a long shot. He kind of had an underdog's chance because of how he's performed his last couple fights. He's been fantastic. But like you also said, Cossio is just a monster. He's dominant in that weight division. Is probably going to get a call up to a bigger promotion sooner than later. Real quick before we go to the co-main event, when you're covering a regional promotion like Lux, and you have these stars in the making, right? Like you clearly see Cossio's a star in the making. What does it do to a promotion that you're marketing this guy as like your guy, but at any given time he could be out the door? Does it kind of like limit how much you can market them?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, what fighters really want to see, other fighters or fans, and it kind of goes. I kind of wish I was there with you guys for the 50th show. So I'm sorry I
Definitely
missed
missed
that.
you that one. Yeah.
I love the one of the topics was what's up with the respect that other people are not respecting other, or they're not a lot of fans for these lower level promotions.
Yeah.
Outside of the Bellator and so forth. So
yeah, and Brandon, you talking about Brandon's rant with the fans? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being said, like what the fighters are looking into this, they're saying, okay, which fighter is gonna go, which promotion is gonna help me get to the UFC? Which promotion is gonna which is the path? What promotions are the talent from the UFC searching in? Are they looking at all these different promotions? Are they, which one's popping them out, man? So I think that's really important to note. So, and I think when you're a promotion, a lower level, or not, I would say, let's say you're a UFC 5-pass promotion, you're trying to show that pathway. You want to be the promotion that can push out these top level talent. You're looking for these kind of guys to really be able to promote. So promoting the brand through and having your fighter leave, it's gonna be huge, because you're gonna see those highlight knockouts for years to come from a promotion. You're like, oh, Luke, yeah, that's where Anderson Silva fought and he got heel hooked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then like you said, up and coming fighters want to fight there too because they think that's their pathway. It's the same thing as we just talked about. You're talking about Art of MMA yesterday. Same thing with CFFC 100 and here in the States. CFFC is another organization that does that. A lot of those fighters end up in the UFC. And they constantly have the promotions, the Shane Burgoses, the Paul Felders, you name it. And you need promotions like that, whether it's Combate, Global, LUX, any of these fight promotions, to constantly be making this new talent. And obviously with the Performance Institute stuff there. I was just wanting to get your thoughts on that, because to me, I think promotion wise, right? Like I'm like, all right, I'm promoting Alex Soto, but Alex might be out the door to a job at ESPN. Like, should I really promote him too much? But at the same time, you're right. Like, hey, I had Alex Soto on this show, and now somebody else wants to get that promotion to ESPN, so they come through me. Hopefully at some point we're bigger than ESPN, but we got to start somewhere. Let's go ahead and talk about that co-main event. Alejandro Martinez got the win, unanimous decision over Gianfranco Cortez. What'd you make of that fight?
That was a crazy fight, man. That was exactly how I thought it was going to go. To the T, man. It was just, they were standing and banging the entire time. There was a couple of takedowns. That was only there weren't even desperate takedown attempts. They were just kind of just to show them, hey, this is an MMA fight. And then they went back to just standing in the pocket and just whacking each other, man. It was really fun and entertaining. Alejandro Pato Martinez is really fun to watch, man. He really is one of those true Mexican fighters that are in the sport right now, man, that are coming up.
Yeah, I was watching that on Fight Pass, and I was just like, how are they both still standing here in the third round? I was just like, what are they doing? But they did. They kept going and going. It was a highly entertaining fight. You think it was a great decision?
I was going for, I had Alejandro winning that fight. And I think it had to do with his output. I don't have the fight stats on me, but I think his output was more, even though he was the fighter that was getting cut. When you look at Alejandro Martinez closely, he's got a lot of scar tissue on his face.
Yeah.
From those wars from inside the gym, So he's got a lot of scarring. So you can tell, I mean, right off the bat, he was already bleeding. And I think that had to do a lot with that. But also, if he's going to move up to the UFC, if he's going to move up in talent, he's got to, he can't be doing that kind of shit, man. Because if he does that, he's going to get taken down, and it's going to be a long night for him. So I'd like to see a little bit more variety from Alejandro Pato Martinez, because he's so much fun to watch, so entertaining. He's going to suck you into this stand and bang type of fight. Like him against Max Holloway, that's a beautiful matchup, right? That's because that's the kind of style that Max wants to fight in.
Yeah.
So anyways, but a lot of stuff, I think that was a really fun fight to watch.
Kind of reminds me of Nate Diaz a little bit too, because Nate, no matter whether he's in the fight or not, he's always bleeding because he's got so much scar tissue. Or Julio Arce, another guy. Like the moment you touch him, it's like there's blood coming out somewhere in his fight. And he could be winning the fight, but somewhere he's bleeding. Some guys are just like that. They just the moment they get touched, but they're just tough as nails and they keep going through it. Looking at some of that rest of the card, what were some highlights that we haven't talked about? I know there was a split decision for Figueiredo versus Gutierrez. You had a couple real slick submissions. Prieto got that heel hook in the first round. And then you even had the weird one at the end of the second round when Nicole Geraldo got the the corner stop the fight against Brenda Arias. Any other highlights you really want to talk about in that?
Yeah, so Nicole, what's your last name?
Geraldo.
Nicole Geraldo. Yeah, she impressed me the most out of everybody there. She was so she's 115 pounds. I think she's gonna do she's gonna have some awesome fights coming up in the girls at 115 pounds. Her technique was so clean, so crisp. It was fun to watch. I urge you guys that if you are real good fans of mixed martial arts and female MMA at 115 pounds, this girl Nicole Geraldo is got beautiful talent, man. Her combinations that I saw in the cage, I haven't seen a male do that, or I haven't seen a pro do it the way she's been doing it, man. Beautiful combinations like double to the body, mixing it up to the head. And it all started off with her opening round. It was very crisp, 1 and 2 fill out. Like they were feeling each other out. Both of the fighters started off kind of even, but she was keeping her cards in her, hiding it very well. And I noticed that she had more in her back pocket with her. She has a really big Taekwondo experience background. I think she's a black belt in Taekwondo. And she was just keeping it in the pocket. And she was just slowly releasing her talent and her arsenal against her opponent until she just couldn't handle it anymore. Her opponent she just couldn't do it. She was outperformed towards the end of that second round. And basically the corner already knew it. They've asked to stop the fight. I mean, she was just, like I said, the way she just opened up throughout round 1 and round 2 was so beautiful, man. It was such, like, the composition of her performance was so much fun to watch that I'm looking forward to seeing her fight again.
Yeah, I actually respect what the corner did because it was clear that Arias was hurt. And a lot of times you see corners sometimes doing the opposite, right? They're like, you can do it. You can come back. You can go fight through this. And they're not really looking out for the fighters. They're looking out more for their own self-interest. Obviously, they want a winner. They want money. They want all the glory for themselves sometimes too. When I see a corner actually go out of their way to protect their own fighter, even ahead of their own self-interest, I have a lot of respect for that because Arias can live to fight another day. She can go and fight another day. She goes into that third round with Geraldo. It might not be another day. So I respect that. You see it sometimes in boxing when people throwing in the towel. You can't really throw in the towel in MMA. It's either you stop it in the corner or once that action stops, it's up to the referee. So it's a little bit different situation. Anything else on that card you want to talk about?
No, I think it covers it, man. Take a look at the fight card, UFC on UFC Fight Pass, the library, LUX Fight League. It's really entertaining fights that are happening there. I think I'm going back there in 3 weeks. This time I'm not going to Mexico City. I'm going to Monterrey. We're heading back out there, and the main event's going to be sick. Francisco Patron is going to be taking Marco Beltran, the 135 pounds. So that's going to be really, really, really entertaining fight. I think it's a great opportunity for Francisco Patron, the baby face, because he has a baby face, man.
We talked about him last week a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's got it. I think it's going to be really fun. I don't know who to call it with yet. I'll have to analyze this fight a little bit more to kind of.
When we get closer, we'll break that one down a little bit more. Before I let you get out of here, you gotta give me at least one story time with Alex. Tell me something fun that happened this weekend, something awesome that happened behind the scenes at the fight.
Yeah, man, something fun.
Something controversial. Let's dig in there. Let's get some clickbait. Like you want to mic me up. Let me mic you up.
Let me see. God, I'm trying to think of some. When you asked me that, I was like, I'll think of something. But I'm like, man, I'm drawing a blank right now. Shit. We went
trips like that kind of happen kind of fast and furious, right? Like you get there and I just said trips like that kind of happen fast and furious, right? Like you get there and you're just on the move like the whole time, right?
Yeah, man, dude, it's nuts, man. Because I had to do a bunch of work too, like on my job and stuff, where I was out there and typing up reports and then heading out to the actual event. Man, I'm trying to think. And I can't think of a story right now. You gotta have to ask me a question or something.
All right. Well, Alex is gonna have to give us 2 stories next week. Then I think we kind of got into story time a little bit earlier with the Performance Institute thing. Anyway, before I let you go, quick thoughts, and this is kind of just a little bonus for the people at home. Clarissa Shields just got her second opponent announced. It's a young Mexican fighter by the name of Abigail Montez. She's only had 2 pro fights. One was in Combate Global. I think the second one was an Icon. She's going from 125 to 135, or no, 135 to 145. And now she's going to be fighting either at 145 or 155 with Clarissa Shields. Is there not like to me, that's just like another feeder for Clarissa Shields, right? Like they just found like this young girl, like that has a very minimal experience. Like it's not even fair, right?
This is in the
UFC? PFL, Clarissa Shields.
Oh, Professional Fight League. Yeah,
it's going to be on October 27th.
You know, we were talking about promotions and, you know, who's feeding these fighters to the UFC. And, you know, a lot of these promotions have really close ties with the managers, you know, so, you know, that you're going to see things like that. It's just part of the business.
Have you ever heard of this girl, Abigail Brave Montez?
I have not. No, I have not heard of Abigail. She's got 3 fights. I mean, how can I hear about her?
Well, 2 fights, but yeah, this is going to be her third, and she's stepping in the. I mean, obviously, it's only Clarissa Shields' second professional MMA fight. She's been doing boxing forever, but I feel bad, huh?
Man, what are the records for both of them?
Clarissa Shields is 1-0 technically, but obviously she's one of the greatest boxers of all time. And then Montez is 2-0. She did win both of her fights, one a decision, the other one a TKO. And then all of a sudden now she's on the main stage on a major American promotion.
It passes the giggle test. You know, it passes the eyes of the commission. You know, we got 2 people in this sport with this kind of experience. You know, it's not too far out of the realms of possibilities, I guess. Not too outrageous.
Selfishly, I hope she shocks the world.
Yes, yeah, of course, man. I can't help it, but always go for the underdog. That's just me, man. I just, no matter who's the underdog, dude, I want him to win because I don't know why. That's just something that I enjoy doing that. And when the underdog wins, like when Brandon Moreno won against Figueiredo, it was that much beautiful, you know, like to really get to enjoy this. That's why I love this sport.
Yeah, I found out at the last second that it was a Mexican girl, and I was like, all right, let's just mention it on the show. I was like, but
we talked about that girl, you know, that died up in Canada, dude. The
boxer.
The boxing female that got, you know,
she was only 18.
I was talking to the commissioners in Mexico City, who are good friends of mine, Luis Cobain, and he was telling me, yeah, that girl was fighting in Mexico City like 6 weeks before that fight, got knocked out in that fight, and she was convulsing like right after that fight. But then she came out of it, and then they put her into that fight against in Canada, where she got killed. You know, and that falls on the camp man, on the coaches for that girl. Those guys should be held responsible for that because they knew she got knocked out. She got a 6-month suspension, but because she fought in Canada, they allowed that fight to happen. So there's got to be some sort of due diligence from the commissions from Canada to do this kind of stuff, man. I mean, these guys are getting paid.
It was a very, very bad situation, yeah.
You know, they're being paid to sanction fights, right? Do your due diligence. If you're in Canada and you're a commission and you're getting a foreign fighter, even though they're, if they got knocked out 6 months ago or 6 weeks ago, you have to address that situation. You can't just let that shit happen and fight because that commission doesn't have any type of overreach in Canada. It's bullshit, man. And now somebody died because of that. Because somebody in Canada in the athletic commission failed to do their fucking job.
Yeah, it was. I've read about that situation. It's very unfortunate. Her name actually slips my mind. I was actually reading about it earlier today. Funny enough, but we can't end the show on a sad note. Real quick, last thought. Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler. We'll talk about a Mexican American. Who wins that fight this weekend?
Robbie Lawler, man. Did you see how his shadow boxing was?
Yeah, I know it was bad. It reminded me of Holyfield doing the Triller thing.
Dude, no, it reminded me of Chuck Liddell hitting the mitts when he fought Tito Ortiz last.
Yeah.
Dude, it looked just like that. I hope that it's not going to be like that. Because he looked great when he was fighting Anderson Silva. The last time
6 years ago, though.
6 years ago, man. I hope to see him perform well, and I hope he does great.
I picked Robbie just selfishly because I want to see him avenge that vicious knockout 17 years ago.
17 years ago.
That's how long ago it's been since the first fight. But I won't take up any more Alex's day. Of course, we'll be back next week with another episode of Crossing Borders. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Got any questions for Alex? He'll be happy to answer them on the show. So make sure you comment, show some love, share us on social media. And for Alex Soto, I'm Mike Ginn. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and we'll see you next week. We're out.